This is the most unlucky man I have ever met. He left his scanner to a homeless singer on the side of the road and paid him for looking after it, and the next thing you know, the guy's gone with the scanner. His car was towed away because he had too many tickets. The rent hadn't been paid for months. His investment in the scanner was also lost. His life was in ruins, so to speak, but he still refused to give up. Every day he was in front of the building. Finally, one day, he found an opportunity. He met an executive at the door. He managed to get a taxi with him. The supervisor was so absorbed in playing with the Rubik's Cube and said that this thing, it was impossible to restore. At this point he offered to try it himself. The supervisor didn't believe he could do it either, but just as he arrived, the man was able to restore it. The supervisor was impressed, but the supervisor just got out of the car. He didn't even pay the fare. The man was too embarrassed to ask him to stop, so he asked the driver to turn back. He looked at the meter and looked at his wallet. Then, clutching his briefcase, at the junction he opens the door and runs off, but he forgets the scanner. He turns back to get the scanner again. He runs to the tube station. The driver follows him down. He finally got on the tube at the end, but he left his hand in the scanner outside. In the end he had to throw the scanner away. It was a month's worth of living expenses for his family. He called his wife. She couldn't stand the life. She decided to take the children and leave. He rushed home, but the house was empty. That's when the securities firm he had interviewed with called. He was told to go back for an interview the morning after. The next day he found his wife and had a big fight with her. Then he took his son away again. In the evening at dinner time, the landlord came to call for rent. He told him to move out in the morning. In the end, he was given a week's grace, and he asked him to repaint the walls. He was working as a painter, but the traffic police came to his door. Because of his long outstanding tickets, he was asked to go to the police station for one night. He had to call his wife, asking her to look after his son for one night. The next morning he didn't even change his clothes. He rushed to the interview, surrounded by suited and booted. All around him were people in suits. He was the only one in a mess of paint, but he was still able to speak with great eloquence and a sincere attitude. He won the interviewer over. If you ask a question I don't know the answer to, I'll tell you straight away that I don't know, but I can assure you, I know how to find the answer, and I will find it. And so he was accepted, but there was a big problem waiting for him. A 6-month internship without a salary. How was he going to get through those 6 months? This man is teaching his son at the stadium. Don't let anyone tell you, you won't make it, not even for me. If you have a dream, you have to pursue it. But now he's just broke, and for the next 6 months of work and no income, so he has to sell the remaining 6 scanners to sell to make ends meet. But that wasn't enough. He wants to pass the company test, but the company is very strict. Only 1 trainee out of 20 is recruited, so he works very hard every day. He walks at a run. One day the man saw a homeless man on the street carrying a scanner he had lost. He rushed after him, but he was knocked down by a car that came out of nowhere. He loses a shoe as a result, and the homeless man was gone. He had no choice but to go to work like this. In addition to serving tea and water to the leader every day, he had to make phone calls all the time. The more calls he made, the more opportunities he had, and more opportunities means more clients, so he almost never hung up the phone and hardly ever drinks water, so he doesn't have to go to the toilet. It saves him more time. Finally, one day he gets a call. The client wanted him there in 20 minutes. He looked at the time and left immediately, but as soon as he left the house, he was confronted by his boss. He was asked to help him park the car. The man had no choice but to agree, but on the way, he encountered a traffic jam. After a long time, the man ran all the way to the office, only to be told that the client has left. On his way downstairs, he finds his boss' car had been ticketed. He had no choice but to pay for the ticket. At the weekend the man takes his son. He went to the client's house to apologize. The client was very generous, invited them to watch a football match together. At the end of the day, even though they didn't work out, but the man met many successful people. It was all going well, step by step, until one day the man received a letter. The bank had taken his dollars and taxed them. This put him back on his feet. Good thing he saw the homeless man from before. He rushes over and gets his scanner back, but the scanner was broken too. He didn't sell it. The house was a disaster. That night the landlord took out all his belongings. He was desperate. He had to take his son to the tube station. He pretended to play a game with his son. Then he went to the toilet in the station, locked the door behind him. This man took his son, spending the night in the toilet of an underground station. There is a knock on the door outside. He looks at his son in his arms, holding his ears tightly, and then stretches his legs against the door, because this is the last place they'll ever be. And this strong man, and in this moment, tears were left behind. The next day the man went to work as usual. When he met his boss, he saw that he had a big bag. He could only say that he was going on a business trip, but in the evening he came to the aid station early and queued up just to get a bed. But then a man came out and said there were only 4 beds left. The homeless man took the opportunity to jump the queue. The man tried to reason with him, but he was pushed away and fought with him. Luckily, the people were very discerning, identifying the homeless man. The man finally has a place to live, but at night he was in the hallway again, fixing his scanner by the faint light. Then he reads at the window again, just because it's brighter there. The man is also getting more comfortable at work. After work, he has to queue up early at the aid station, in a room with the homeless. Finally it was time for the final test. The man turns in his paper second, in the lift. He meets the first man to hand in his paper. He asks the man in a pretentious manner, "Have you finished all your answers?" The man says he's done. Then the man says, "So easy." The man says it's just the theory questions on the back that are a bit difficult. Wait, there's a theory question on the back. The man goes back downstairs. After going downstairs, the man meets the leader. The leader forgot his wallet in the car. He wants to borrow $5 from the man, but the man looks in his wallet. The few dollars he had in his wallet, he lent it to him anyway. The man was so desperate that he had to sell his blood. Then he used the money to buy parts to fix the scanner at night and bought him out, and so he had money again. He took his son and put him in a hotel, and then took him to the beach again, away from the hustle and bustle of the city, and away from the injustice and frustration that he had suffered. This day while he was at work, and was called into the office. The moment had finally come. He shook hands with the leaders one by one, and jokingly said I should have worn a shirt, but the leader said, "Tomorrow." Then, tomorrow will be your first day in the office. The man struggles to keep his eyes wide open and doesn't dare to blink. Those eyes were red. Not a single tear escaped. When it was time to leave, the leader called out to him, and gave him $5 at the end of the shift. The man rushed into the crowd, applauding himself with excitement, but he couldn't hide his tears of joy. This is a film based on a true story. The man passing by is the real-life model for this film. His name is Chris Gardner. I hope this film will give you strength when you're at a low point in your life. Let's work together. We're all in this together.